because maybe they're so stressed and depressed because of their situation, right? So that's a great organization. We also, we work with the local church here. It's literally 2 miles away from us. Last year we sponsored a family, for Christmas. So they were actually part of our Christmas tree sponsorship. And we were able to provide a lot of gifts and stuff just for that family to make sure they had a good, and as well as useful gifts. Like, again, I think that it's important to give back, but also in useful manners, not just, hey, here's whatever, here's a box of whatever, right? So we were able to provide that. And of course, we also, in the last few months, again, when we were open, we 1 month it was Tunnel of the Towers. Again, I think everyone's aware of Tunnel of the Towers, right? They do amazing work. They look at, again, given situations, they try to offer support there. And as well as we look at any other nonprofits, like we have SC Cares, and as well as a couple other mental health locations here locally that we try to provide support to. So every month's different. Every month we try to figure out, okay, what is this month going to go to? Or again, we're thinking about probably making it quarterly. That way it's a bigger sort of chunk of it. But just in the 6 months that we were open, we were able to provide about $5,000 worth of nonprofit support. So, which is great. And we can only do that with our customers, right? The more customers that will come in, the more customers we can, the more folks we can help and support in these great organizations.
I love that. That's incredible. $5,000 within the first 6 months. That's definitely something huge and monumental. So congratulations on that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and we have an amazing staff. So again, I couldn't do what I'm doing without the amazing staff, right? I'm all over the place trying to get things going. We're actually launching our Liberty Brew mobile, which is actually a mobile coffee trailer. So we have things lined up there, which is great. We're gold sponsors of, or elite sponsors or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, we're sponsors of, a car club here. It's, Only Mustangs is the car group, which is great. So we signed that. And then as well as we have a cook-off for, a barbecue cook-off, which is downtown, near the inlet. So we're sponsors for there. So yeah, we're all about trying to figure out how to get integrated into the community at a local level, and then also the folks that are just trying to help whoever within the local community. Because again, there's some folks out there that sometimes need help but aren't asking for help, and you just never know.
Yeah, it's true. It's unfortunate that there's so many people who think that they struggle alone, and at the end of the day, you're not alone. You always have someone, whether you think you do or not, and you're also not the only one in the world struggling at any point. We're all struggling with something, and a lot of us just need to be more open about how we're feeling and how we're struggling.
Yep, and I think that's sort of the atmosphere that again in our current Liberty Brew location, right? Our only location, but we are looking to expand. But if you come in, it's a quiet atmosphere. We don't have any radios blaring, right? There is a radio, but it's not like you just walked into a rock show. So again, we try to offer a good cozy location. We have some tables, we have couches, we have a little privacy area. So if you want to go just relax and not worry about anything going on, we have that location as well. So again, we try to offer, a good selection of coffees, frozen drinks, and all that good stuff. So if you're not a coffee drinker, we still have something for you, hot chocolate. As today's International Cocoa Day, we have hot chocolate as well. So
that's awesome. So what have you learned? Okay. Opening your brick and mortar, what have you learned? Like you said, you guys have been open around a year now. A year later, what have you feel like you learned the most during this?
So I think the biggest thing that we've learned collectively as a team is running a shop or running any type of business that's retail related, right? Retail, food, whatever you want to call it. It's hard, period, right? You have, again, you have the folks that love us, and then you have the folks that are, they have their opinions, right? So I think the biggest thing that we've learned is engagement is key. Listening to your customers is key as well, even if it might sound, you don't want to hear it. But I think engagement that way, is important to any successful business, as well as, being honest with your customers where you're at, where the business is at, right? If they ask, be like, hey, yeah, it's slow. It's been slow. It's that time of year, right? I don't know where the customers are, but they're not here. I think being honest with the community and yourself, and again, folks that say, hey, we support small businesses. Small businesses carry the U.S. So, if you go to that Dunkin' or Starbucks, that's not small business, right? So, that's just something to think about when you're going local, right? And as well as patience is another thing that we've learned, right? Having patience of things might not pan out, but I think generally overall a year later, I think I've learned ask the right questions, right? As a business owner, again, if I want to open up another location, I think I have more questions now than I did when I first opened it, and we're like, hey, let's do this thing. Right now I have some questions that I can ask before I say, hey, let's do this thing over here. So yeah, I think generally overall, I think the biggest thing is customer engagement, and then also listen to your employees. Right, they're the best feeders of information, ideas. Get ideas from them. Right, so I think there's many different things that we've learned over the year. Again, our shops have officially been open for 7 months now, because the build out and everything like that. But I would say number one thing is listening to your customers, dynamically shifting, your audience, right? Because maybe the audience you thought was your actual customer base is not your customer base, right? So I think that's key as well. So, if you go in saying, hey, I think my audience is going to be this set of folks and this is where they live and yada, 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 maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's not. So I think being able to dynamically shift, and I think it's what small businesses are all about, right? They're able to shift and, fluently just sort of, hey, we're going to change this up and make it, see how this works out, right? Again, right. You always have to try, right? There's one thing that I've always learned is fail fast, fail quick. You know what? Things work out, things don't, and you just move on, pick your boots up, I guess is the term I would use, and see what the next day brings, right? So there's always tomorrow, right? You just got to figure out how to get there.
Yeah, I love that saying so much. That's so good. And I mean, that's great advice, like you said, for any small business, really. Like, listen to your customers. Again, in your head, you might be thinking that, oh, okay, this is what, like you said, this is what they're going to be. This is where they're going to come from. But at the end of the day, it ends up being something completely different. And, you have to use that magic pivot word to really kind of, move and guide with your customers and the feedback and everything. Because, like you said, as much as you think you know how your business is going to run, your customers are going to tell you something completely different.
Exactly. So I think generally overall it's been an amazing year. We've provided a whole lot of coffee. So I think it's just going to be an amazing 2024. I can feel it. Like, I just see, as an owner or as independent owner, you sort of, once you get to a certain point, you can feel something, like your gut feeling. Like, I always say your gut's always your good meter, right? There might be days where you're like, oh man, why am I doing this? Like, what is going on here? But if you just look step out of it and be like, okay, this is what we achieved, this is what we accomplished, and this is where we're headed. And if you see sort of the light at the end of the tunnel of, okay, we're doing the right thing, keep going, pressing forward, let's move forward. So
that's awesome. Now, going to the coffee side of it, what have you learned most during this journey into coffee? Because, I mean, obviously, like you said, your first real memory of coffee was in the military, and it wasn't obviously the best. And then you had to go to Spain to really have your first good cup of coffee. And so, getting into the coffee world, what have you learned so much about, when it came to this journey?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I've learned from getting into the coffee world, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of players in the coffee world that have an amazing talent of palate, right? So it's interesting to see exactly like what those palettes are, the processes of how coffees are made. I think is the biggest thing I have learned. And again, I know how to make a whole lot of coffees, but it's interesting to see the craftsmanship that a lot of let's just call it superior coffee. I'm not going to say brands, but superior coffee makers, because in my mind, like Starbucks is the brand, but that doesn't mean they have the best coffee. They might have the best person that owns his craft, right? So I think that's the biggest thing I've learned in the coffee, jumping headfirst into the coffee arena, was understanding like the coffee craft and then crafting my craft around that. Like what do I want to get out of this? Like it's like I tell the employees, right? There's nothing I won't do that I'm telling you to do. Like, hey, make it this way or make it that way, because that's how I'm going to be making it, right? That's the craft, right? But it's also, again, one of our employees, like, hey, they used to work at one of these, coffee places, these push the button type of coffee places where, again, they have a good name, right? Sell a lot of donuts. But I think she said something that really honed in on me. And it was like, she said she's, in the past 5 months, she's learned more here at the coffee shop than she's learned at any coffee place. And that's really what I want to get out of it, is people really enjoying the coffee craft, understanding that there is a method to the madness, and then also owning their craft. And that's what I want for them, right? Because our goal, right? I mean, it might be like cloud goals, but our goal is really to be a good South Carolina label-based brand within South Carolina, right? I want to see our brand grow. I want to see what I call our founding employees maybe operating one of these businesses, maybe operating a coffee shop up the road. So that's sort of my grand goal. But back to the question is really the craft of making it.
No, I love that you not only, are still learning yourself, but you want people around you to learn and grow and continue on with whatever their purpose in life really is. Because there's so many people that, of course they want, the same people in there working with them and become family, but when it comes for the time for them to leave, unfortunately sometimes people can get really in their feelings about it and kind of will hinder other people just for their own kind of selfishness. But you seem like you obviously and genuinely want people to grow and be better, so I love that.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of already touched on a little bit with you're working on a mobile coffee and you hope to open another location. We're still early in 2024. If we were having this conversation next year, what do you hope to accomplish throughout the rest of 2024?
Yeah, I think the major thing that I want to accomplish for 2024 would be opening a new location, really placing the brand, and when I say the brand, Liberty Brew Coffee, in different pockets of, again, what I call the coastal South Carolina, right? And we're already starting to see that, right? So, which is great. But there's still more work to be done, as I say. So just looking at, again, 2024, I think continue to establish the brand and the mission, right? Because we don't want to lose sight of the mission, right? Again, many coffee places or coffee items, right? They lose sight of their brand, and now it's nothing but profits, right? It's nothing but the bottom line. And again, there's still things there that you need as a business, right? Profits and all that good stuff. But when you start losing sight of your your mission and what's core and why you open the coffee shop or why you open coffee place XY